John, kia ora. Thank you for
Kia
joining.
ora. Happy birthday. I
I
shall spare you my normal rendition of happy birthday.
That is a blessing in itself, John. That you have.
Oh no, no. It's actually a wonderful gift.
Is
It's an
it?
honor. Yeah.
Well, I thank you for because I mean on another occasion, perhaps, but we've got some important things to be talking about today. And honestly, I'm glad that you picked the topic today because there's been some robust points of view in our nation. Well, there normally is, but they've just kind of risen to the surface and all got flags. Of course, the Hikoi, generally well behaved in Wellington. That's something we're going to be talking about later in the program. But there's some people that have different points of view on a variety of issues, not just the treaty, but including that. Um, you would
How
hope.
could anyone have different views from us, Andrew? And we're so wise and all-knowing. They just need to listen and obey. But
Well,
no,
yeah, that
authentic and intelligent people are going to see the world in different ways.
whilst I don't disagree with you, John, I think we might be part of the problem in this regard. I suppose when we do talk with people who have a different point of view than us, who do have a different way of looking at the world, how
Yeah.
can we have differences of opinion without breaking the relationship? I suppose.
I can remember years ago meeting a guy who said he loved to argue. He loved to get stuck into people. His particular thing was the 7 day creation, and he
Okay.
loved to be able to drop facts and gotcha arguments on them. And he loved to argue. Actually, I think he just loved to come across as being smart and intelligent. But in actual fact, I don't think he changed anyone's point of view on the creation one little bit.
Yeah.
What point of view he did change was that people started to think he was a prat, and I suspect he was.
Exactly. And hey, there's even if you are right, if you don't have any friends, who's winning? Actually,
Mm, That's right. It's been pretty lonely, Andrew. No, debate is like that. It wrecks relationships far more often than it changes
yeah.
minds. And so if these things are important and politics and theology and aspects of science and health, they are important.
Yeah.
And we would be doing people a service if we can steer them onto a closer facsimile of the truth.
Yeah.
But how do you change minds? And how do you preserve relationships? I mean, do you pretend to agree with people? No, that'd be dishonest. Your integrity is starting to delaminate
Yeah.
if you just want to keep the peace and say, "Oh yes,
I
that's a
think there
good
is a
point."
time though for biting your tongue. You
Absolutely,
got to pick
that's
your
not quite the
moment.
same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Just staying stum, biting your lip, nodding, agreeing with what you can agree with, and so when they're sharing their ideas on global warming or theology or whatever.
Hmm.
And so, yes, there is a time and a place for vigorous debate, and this might not be that time.
Yeah.
I can remember someone saying, when you're preaching, your objective, you need to have your objective in mind. And sometimes your objective is you want them to listen next time. If you're speaking over a series, your first one is basically you're not going to make all your points then. You want them to come back and listen next time.
The
And
first
same with
one's just the bait, right? The first one's
yeah,
just the
but
bait before
yeah,
the
that's
switch.
right.
Yeah.
And sometimes just listening with interest on your face and silence in your mouth can can build the relationship because you need that trust and respect and even affection before they'll listen to you, before they'll take on board your ideas. And
Yeah.
so listening politely is not a bad way to start if you're wanting to get your ideas across.
Hmm.
Maybe that'll be next time. Maybe over a cup of coffee. Maybe when you invite them around to your place, because there's a bit of friendship there. If you immediately counter with your favorite gotcha argument, there will be no next time.
Yeah.
Now, last weekend, I heard a doctor speaking, and she had spent her career with people telling her their opinions
Mm.
about their illnesses and things like this. And she had some great ideas. And she started off by saying the things that don't work. And the first thing is just to dismiss this person as being stupid and not knowing what you know,
Yeah.
and or that the idea is so trivial it's not even worth thinking about. It probably sets the other person's ideas in concrete rather than changes them.
Yeah.
And you've created an enemy in the process. And the another thing she said you don't do is laugh at them. I mean, if you browse the internet, you don't have to browse for long before you find people with ideas that are so wrong-headed. They're they're
There's
hilarious.
some funny stuff on the internet. Yeah,
There
exactly.
is. Now, a sense of humor is a great asset in all sorts of aspects of life, but not in these occasions.
Okay.
If you're talking to these persons and they come out with these ideas like the royal family are actually lizards, and yes, there are tree people who believe that, don't laugh at them, don't mock them. No, because they are, if you're not showing respect, they're certainly never going to be listening to your ideas. Don't mock them.
Yeah.
Another real temptation for a congenital know-it-all like myself is to start to lecture people with a sort of a condescension in my voice and to point out the facts and point out how wrong they are. And my endless surprise throughout life is why aren't people more grateful when I've pointed out how wrong they are?
John, you're doing a great job of telling us what not to do, but either your wisdom or the good doctor that you were talking to over the weekend, how do we get better at this? What should we be doing instead of all these failed
Okay.
strategies?
Well, look, she had lots of good ideas, but one that I thought was so good, I might even get this little phrase tattooed on the back of my hand to remind me to do it. And I'm in these situations, and that is just to go, that's interesting. I wonder if it's true. Sort of with that look of, yes, I hear what you're saying, and it's interesting and it's intriguing, and I can see why it appeals, but I wonder if it's true. Just meaning it's an invitation for them to do some thinking themselves,
Yeah.
to perhaps back it up with some facts.
Yeah.
And so there's a humility in it. You're not necessarily straight off agreeing with them.
Yeah.
It's just that you're not dismissing them out of hand. So that phrase, that's interesting. I wonder if it's true. Not in a way that that you suspect they're a liar and deliberately trying to deceive you. It's
Yeah.
just that, yeah, well, what's behind that idea?
You're
And
inviting them to give a reason for the belief that they have. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
believe they believe it to be true. Obviously, what has led them to that conclusion? An invitation for conversation.
See, something else that you're doing is that you're expressing a willingness to follow wherever the evidence leads. And that type of humility, when you introduce that into a discussion, it's good for you because heaven forbid, we might actually be wrong,
We might be.
but
Yeah.
also it lets them know that there is no shame in changing your mind if a better idea comes along with
Yeah.
better evidence.
Yeah.
And so you agree with what you can agree with. And another thing which she stressed is sometimes sit back and wonder what is driving their point of view.
Okay.
And very often it's fear. Fear of a reality that might be steering them down well, in her case, it might be a fear that they actually have a serious illness.
Yeah.
Well, but more typically, a fear that the world is going to change, that we might not have control, that things are going to be that we've cherished might not be, worthwhile. So sometimes just thinking, well, why do they have this point of view? Can change you from being confrontational to empathetic. And I think that's a very good place to start with your dialogue.
So
So have robust debates, maybe not the first time. Do it with respect and love. Listen to what they say. Show yourself willing to listen and change. And that's interesting. I wonder if it's true.
I
And
think
you're
that.
probably wondering that about what I've said this
Well,
morning.
no, I think it's definitely worth the conversation. I'm not sure about the tattoo, John, but maybe written on the
No,
back of
no,
my hand in
no.
indelible ink or something slightly less
That's right.
permanent in
My,
that
my
regard.
my skin is uninked, and I think it's likely to remain that way. I don't think I've. My wife wants me to get a tattoo. Do
Yeah.
not resuscitate. But apart from that, the
Yeah,
tattoo was I was being flippant.
exactly. But it's a wonderful way to keep the conversation going without breaking the relationship. John, always appreciate our conversations and our relationship. Thanks so much for
Oh,
joining us today.
grand. Enjoy the rest of your birthday, mate. Cheers.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.